Yo, what up, y'all? Welcome, welcome. How's it going? Welcome back to the live stream. Number 2. I said I'd do this every week. So far, I'm 2 weeks in. So far, so good. As you jump on, let me know where you're at. Say hello in the chat. Would love to say hi. See who's here. Adi, welcome back. Great to have you. Can you hear me okay? Is this coming through all right? I got the fan on blast today. It's not hot, but I've never lived somewhere humid, right? And I've been introduced to dew point. I didn't realize what dew point was. I'm going to aim for every week, yeah. Aim for it anyway. Can't promise it'll be every week, but that's my desired schedule. Every week, same time. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to pop out the chat like I did last time so I can kind of see everybody and float that window around. Yo. I got to rearrange a few things. Hang on. So let me know if my voice is coming through okay, because I don't know if the fan is getting in the way at all today. That fan is saving my life at the moment. There is fan noise? Shit. Let me turn it down just a little bit. I'll be right back. Yeah, you can see me walk. Whatever. I'll turn it down. Then let me close up the doors. All right. Voice is good? Sweet. All right. Hopefully that's a little less fan noise. I'm going to have to figure this out because, man, it's only in the 80s, but like the dew point right now is super high over here. And I had no idea that that is what makes the air feel humid, right? You can have high humidity, but if the dew point is still pretty low, it doesn't feel as bad. Right now, it's like not very hot and the humidity is only about 70. But the dew point is up to like 76 degrees and it's crazy. It's crazy just sweating. People living in, humid countries are like, yeah, welcome to my world. It's new to me. I came from Seattle, which is wet, like we get rain, right? But we don't have that same sort of dew point / humidity thing. The humidity over there is usually around 60%. It's not bad. So this is like a whole different world. Last night it was 91% humidity. Dew point was 75. It's crazy. Just sweat glands I didn't know I had coming forth. You know what I mean? Well, hey guys, as we get rolling here, we don't have too many viewers right now, but I'm just going to get rolling because I got some interesting information to cover today. And hopefully it's going to be valuable for anybody that's watching now or anybody that's watching after. So the main thing I want to discuss today is visual snow. This has been on my mind a lot, especially because some certain things like starting to open up for me and I'm starting to experience a little more of, and then also certain ideas and stuff that I'm validating with other people, right? So some of what I'll talk about, actually most of what I'll talk about today is like a lot of theory. It's a lot of theory. And theory mixed with personal experience, right? More videos, more subs, more viewers. That's right, dude. Forgive me, I say dude. If you're not a dude or don't identify with dude, I grew up saying dude. It just pops out of my mouth. But yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, 7K subs is still just building, right? And last week, I announced it as an event. I announced the live stream in the Discord server as an event. So it was kind of hanging out in the Discord server. I know a lot of people had jumped in from there. I didn't do that this week because I want the events to be specifically for like community events, right? But next week, we'll see. Maybe I'll keep putting them in as an event. Actually, I have an event to announce today. I might as well do that right away. Should we do that right away? No, I'll just do it now. I'll mention it now. Okay, so some of the members in the Discord server, they're talking about growing their PROPHANTASIA, right? Shout out to you know who. And they were like, well, we should do like a Casina / PROPHANTASIA challenge. Like they were just talking amongst themselves. Let's do a 5-day challenge. And I was like, hey, heck yeah. Like I'll jump in on that. I want to practice more and it'd be fun to like get with other people and practice a bit, you know? And so I'm like, hey, let me know if you guys want to make it something specific. I can announce it to the YouTube channel. I can announce it to the community and make a legit challenge out of it. Make it a day challenge that we can do next week. And they're like, all right, let's do it. So we're putting it together. It's coming along. I've already got a loose structure. I'm going to be bouncing off them today and forming it more solidly over the weekend. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Next Monday through Sunday is the plan. We extended it to 7 days. So I would anticipate maybe like 30 minutes, maybe 20 to 40 minutes of practice every day. That's my thought right now. Just to see how we can increase PROPHANTASIA and our experience as a group, right? Get some momentum going in that sense too. Get some action in the Discord server, you know, talking and bouncing back and forth. It'll be a lot of fun. So that's coming up this coming Monday, which is, don't ask me the date. I haven't even put that stuff together yet. Monday, the 14th of April through Sunday, the 20th. Sunday will be our final day, like our wrap-up day. That'll be all about PROPHANTASIA, all about Casina meditation. We're going to integrate some concepts from Casina meditation, visual snow, all this stuff. So if you're interested in developing your PROPHANTASIA, it's going to be free. It's just going to be a lot of fun. And we'll have a blast. Snow and warm weather. What, you mean in Seattle? It doesn't really snow in Seattle. Like it'll snow on the hills and stuff, but is that what you mean? And snow, like visual snow, always appears in warm weather or cold weather or wherever you are. I'm not sure what you're referring to. 14 to 20. Yeah, those are the dates. Monday the 14th to the 20th. Is that right? I just looked at it. Golly. Now I don't remember. Yeah, Monday the 14th through Sunday the 20th. That's right. So keep an eye out for that. We'll talk. I'll show you like my little blurb I had ChatGPT help me put together on it. I'll show that to you guys at the end. It'll be an event in the Discord server, so if you're not already in there, make sure you jump in because it'll be posted in there and we'll rock and roll on it, okay? All right. So I really want to get rolling on something. Like I said, the main topic of today is going to be visual snow, right? I would love to hear first thing in the comments as I get rolling here. Do you experience visual snow or have you ever experienced visual snow? That's a great opening question. I'd love to know. And if you don't know what visual snow is, mention it in the comments. We're going to talk about it anyway. Let me pull up my picture that I had ready. I think I saved it to a folder. I didn't mean to. Yep, here it is. Okay. So here I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to take a look at this. So there's this interesting phenomena, right, called visual snow. That's a term in the medical community. Maybe experienced it one, Adi? Yeah. It's a term in the medical community for this certain visual experience. Seems to be sort of rare, right? And here's what the experience typically will appear like for people. This is like my favorite illustration of it. It can appear a little bit different depending on who you are, but this was the most accurate that I had found based on my experience and hearing other people discuss and, define their experience. So this was pretty close. So it's like people with regular sight, you're looking into the world. You don't really see much other than the environment, right? It's just nothing in between you and the environment. People with extreme, now this would be an extreme case, keep in mind, but people with like extreme visual snow would experience something more along the lines of this on the right. Okay. It's almost like what I like to liken it to, what I like to draw the parallel to is like TV static. Like if you imagine those old CRT TVs when you don't have them tuned to a channel, it's just white noise. Like the screen is that grainy white noise, the white and gray noise. It's like that. It's like that. The dots of it tend to be a little bit bigger for most people than just the white noise on the TV, but it's similar. It kind of flickers and moves just like that. It can sometimes have waves, right? So that's visual snow. So let me see if we have any comments here, and I'll put the illustration back up. I messed up my screens. Let's get it right. Actually, I don't think I can share my screen and then not show you guys the chat. It's okay though. Unless I had a second monitor, which, I'll have to do that next time. Okay. So in essence, that's visual snow. It's the experience of that staticky stuff overlaid on top, physically overlaid, like you're actually physically seeing it on top of the environment around you. Couple caveats about it. Like I said, this would be in a very extreme case of visual snow. Not everybody's like that. Most people will have a thin layer of it that experience it. Some, though, do experience it to this degree where it can be distracting and discouraging, like sort of a disturbing experience for people. So in that sense, of course, like it's a whole different story if they have that extreme version of it. I have had a theory, and I've wondered if even those types of people can almost cognitively learn how to like turn the volume down. I just haven't worked with anybody in that position or tried to do that with anybody, but I'd be curious if we could do that, through some sort of cognitive training to be able to lessen the volume of it, because I find the reverse is true, and we'll talk about that. The reverse is true, that if you don't see visual snow, I've actually helped people to be able to learn how to see it, right? And turn the volume up on it. So if you could turn the volume up on it, to me, I'm like, well, you could probably turn the volume down too, if it's disorienting or distracting or disturbing for you. Just a theory, don't know yet, but worth a shot. So this is visual snow. This is the experience of visual snow. Let's see if I have any comments coming in. So good question. Is this like disassociation? It can be related to the experience of disassociation. You're going to be seeing my comment section. I hope you're fine with that. A little redundant for you, but I want to see the comments real quick. Like weak eyesight, there is sort of a lumped in phenomena I found out where eyesight can be dim, like even in a bright environment, it can appear dim. That seems to be almost like an offshoot of visual snow. I'm not entirely sure. I need to look into that piece of it more. I don't think it's necessarily just weak eyesight, right? The entire Mac display is shared. Just mentioning it. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. You're seeing my programs and stuff. I think that's fine. And if I swipe up, you'll see briefly some notes or something. But yeah, so now here's the thing. The medical community right now, and in a sense I understand this stance, but the medical community just lumps visual snow in with like a disorder, right? And what they perceive it to be is a neurological optical condition, not anything to do with the physical eyes, because when people get checked out for this extreme visual snow, they don't find anything wrong in the retina or anything like that, or in the optical nerve. There's nothing out of place. There's nothing wrong biologically. So our best idea right now is it's a phenomenon that's rooted in the actual brain, right? That it's a neurological condition. They call it a condition. I'd prefer not to call it that, but I can see why they would label it as such, especially for people that it's this intense for, right? So I have some ideas and some theories, some things I've experienced for myself personally, some things I've helped others to experience as well, that I'm playing around with the idea that visual snow might be more than we think it is as a medical community, right? It might actually have more to do with something else that we don't fully understand yet. And I'm going to dig into some pretty interesting stuff here. if you're coming at me or if you're tuning in and all you're used to me talking about is the mind's eye, right? Visuals, prophantasia, aphantasia, just visualization. This is one of the reasons why I blended my brands together back in whenever I did that, 2022, I think. Because I wanted to be able to talk about whatever like I've been exploring, right, or experienced or want to do research within. And this is one of the areas. This is one of the areas that I'm really curious about. The thing is, when we don't have data yet to prove what I'm talking about or what I'm going to bring up in as we go here, if we don't have scientific data yet, anecdotes are really good primers to launch studies off of, right? Especially if enough people experience that same anecdotal experience. So I just wanted to frame that real quick because what I'm going to talk about is very anecdotal. It's my own experience. And I've helped other people I've taught other people the same thing, but we don't have hard data around it yet, okay? Just framing that. Bear with me. I'm going to go back. I'll just maximize myself. Does that make sense? Let me see if I'm getting any questions yet before I keep going. Does the volume always stay up on visual snow? I've found that people who learn how to see it, so people that don't normally see it, but they learn how to see it, they can turn the volume up. And with practice, they can also turn the volume down. Yeah. And why do that? That's the big question. Why, right? Why would you even want to see this stuff? And to get into why, that's where I'll have to start digging into some of my experiences with it and some of why it led me down the path of going, there might be more to this visual snow story than we give credit for. Let me pull up my notes because I got some notes I want to look over as I'm going here. One aside before I dig in deeper. Back in 2009, I recognized this phenomena that I learned the name of later that we call phosphenes. We actually talked about that a little bit last time. Phosphenes are the name of internal visual light experienced by your conscious self that doesn't have an external source. And typically we consider phosphenes as showing up as like same sort of thing as visual snow, like optical noise, right? Along the optic nerve or somewhere in the brain, in the visual cortex. It's just, we consider that it like noise, right? But I noticed something back in 2009. I was very curious. I noticed that I would have more phosphene experience, like more experience of flashes and swoops of light and things like this, if I was in an emotionally charged or heightened state. And I don't mean like, I'll explain exactly what I mean. By that, I mean like I was joyful or I was like excited about life, right? Or I'd feel really good, like I'd feel just an excitement and an energy within myself, not down, not lethargic. If I was up in those kind of higher energy states emotionally, I would notice more phosphenes around me in my environment. I just started going, what is that about? Right? Curious. And it was this pattern I could recognize. Like if I was stressed out or just focused on work or whatever, not really emotionally heightened, no phosphenes, right? As soon as I tap back into being more excited about life and more positive, phosphenes. Okay, what's going on there? I didn't know. So I'll just say that for now. Where are we going? Where are you going with it? Like visual snow is what? Aliens messing with the brain or stress messing with visual cortex? Light isn't always needed to see light. Retinal stimulation can do that too. There are companies doing that, I think. Something pressing on the optic nerve. Yeah, so pressing on the optic nerve will also instigate that experience of phosphenes being generated, like swooping patterns and things like that. I just want to mention those things right now because I'll tie it back into visual snow as I go, right? Yeah, and where I'm going with it, you'll see. I want to take us on a little bit of a journey, right? I'll just preface it. My idea is that our brain is trying to process potentially some information that we don't fully understand yet. Either physics-based, like we don't understand it in physics, we don't understand it in mass, in our mass human experience. Okay. So now we'll get into some sort of metaphysical territory, okay? And this is where I mentioned, like, if you're only used to me talking about aphantasia, hang with me, because this could all potentially tie together, and that's why I joined my brands in the first place, right? And it can apply very well to what you're trying to do, even if what you're trying to produce in your life is not metaphysical or spiritual in nature. I don't really prefer that term because it denotes belief. I'm not talking about that. But if you're just trying to train prophantasia, even what I say can be valuable there, I believe, as well. So, with phosphenes, I experienced this thing one time where I was at a meeting, and this guy was describing seeing beings in the room as if he could physically see them, like people standing about, right? And I always thought that idea was really cool. Like, man, what if there is this other layer to reality where there's things standing in there or objects or whatever in there, but just our natural sight is not picking up whatever information is there, right? And so at the end of this meeting, I asked this guy, I was like, hey, can you like direct me to one of them that you see? And I'd just like to stand in front of it and see what I see. He's like, sure. So he walks me over to this pillar. There was a support for the building, big wide thing, white and wide. And he's like, there's one right here. Okay, I couldn't see it, right? I'm just going, trusting what he said. And he described where its head was and what it was doing and how it looked and stuff. So I'm like, okay, no way to tell if this guy's actually seeing something objective or not, or if his mind is just producing it. But I stood in front of this spot and I relaxed my eyes. And lo and behold, bunch of flashes, bunch of phosphenes were starting to sparkle in there. Like right where he would say that its sort of body was. And I thought, okay, that's really interesting. I kind of kept it in the back of my head. Flash forward, I think to about 2011, right? Now, I'll back up. Did I, at the time, think that, wow, I'm seeing a being? If I'm being honest, at that time I did, because I was less geared towards scientific objective measurement, right? I was more mystical in how I approach stuff. Now, I've always thought like an engineer, but now I'm much more measured in how I like measure stuff out. I want to see objective reality. I don't want to just hallucinate things, right? Or make up a reality. I want to see objective stuff, and I want to know how things actually work. So I kind of held that in the back of my head. Potentially I'm seeing something that isn't there, right? That is there, but isn't in our visible light spectrum. Potentially. Flash forward 2011. And I remember living in Northern California, walking down my stairs of the place that I was living at the time, and getting downstairs. And in the downstairs, we had like off-white cream colored paint on the walls. It was almost like a basement. It was a cool spot to hang out down there. And I get down there and I'm like, what is that stuff? And it's the first time I noticed the phenomenon that I later found out was called visual snow. Whereas like this speckly, staticky movement on the walls. And I'm like staring at it going, what is all that? You know? I didn't try to activate it. I didn't try to see it. It just appeared. It was just there. So I'm going, okay, that's really trippy. That's really interesting, right? I'll pause here. Let me see if I get any comments that are relevant to what we're talking about. Actually, let me finish up the next point I'll make, and then I'll go back and talk about some of the comments here. So I'm like, interesting. Okay, this stuff is like overlaid on top of what I see, and it was typically like I would have to look at a solid color, like let's say a solid gray wall or a solid, cream colored wall like in that basement. And I noticed that being in low light helped me to see it better, right? So I'm like, all right, what is this stuff? I noticed something about it. If I saw one of those phosphenes in my environment, I could then, first of all, I learned that I could see it, and I could learn how to not see it, right? You don't like where this is going. Hey, you don't have to go where I've been, right? And I'm not taking this to any I'm not meaning that, there's some wild stuff. Well, if you know me, I am pretty wild, right? But, hey, if this phenomena does mean that there's something else in the environment, some other sort of processing that our brain can do, I would rather explore that. I'd rather know that, right? And I'm not saying that I know 100%. I'm not saying that this is exactly how it is, but it's interesting to ponder. It's interesting to wonder about, right? Interesting to think about. Because, hey, if humans can see information, not just those things that you mentioned there, but if humans can see information that is outside of our normal, typical experience, that's incredible. I want to know. That's how I've always been. And that's what I mean by wild. How you wild? That's how I mean. Like, I want to know. I want to know what the limits of our human experience are, and not just take at face value what we think reality is, right? I've always been like that, exploratory, right? And I don't think it has to run away with people. Like, this stuff should be practiced, measured, right? So you don't lose a grip on what is objective. Anyway. Okay. So picking up. So I recognize if I see a sparkle in my environment, like one of those phosphenes, I could actually flip on and turn up the volume of the visual snow in that environment, and lo and behold, more sparkles in that general area. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I don't know what it is. I still don't. I don't know what exactly I'm seeing, right? I just kind of hold it in the back of my mind. Interesting things start happening with this. Where one time I remember, this was the first time I did this with somebody. I remember sitting in my living room at that same place I was living, upstairs. I was staring at a cream-colored wall, just kind of relaxing my eyes, enjoying the visual snow and the sparkles of light that would appear here and there. I don't know what they are, right? I'm just watching it for what it was. Sometimes they'd be little swoops of light. Sometimes there'd be a little pinprick of light. And my friend my roommate at the time, walks through the room. And I'm like, hey, you want to see some cool stuff? I just had a intuition about it at that moment, that I knew if he sat next to me, he'd actually start to see some of the same phenomena that I was seeing. So I was like, hey, you want to see some cool stuff? I don't know what it is, but you want to try? He's like, yeah. So I was like, okay, sit right here. He sits down next to me on the couch. And I'm like, just watch the wall, relax your eyes, and let me know when you start to see any little movement of any type, right? He goes, okay. Took a minute or two. And he goes, oh, shoot, I just saw like a sparkle. What was crazy when he first said that first one that he saw was I saw it at the same time too. And I went, oh, was it over there on the right? Yes. It was like a little flash. And I'm like, yeah, I saw that. And we sat there maybe for 20, 30 minutes, and we're calling out the same sparkles, the same phosphenes, the same light phenomena happening in that space. At that point, I'm like, okay, there might be some objective stuff to this. There might be some objective shared experience that we can see like we see the natural world. It's just our brain isn't processing the information fully, right? I had that same experience quite a few years later, I think 2015, with two roommates that second time. So I was like, hey, you guys want to see something trippy? We all stood in one spot. We were looking into the dimly lit living room from the kitchen. Kitchen light was on, living room was dim. That one was even more dramatic. We were seeing big streaks of light, all three of us at the same time. Okay, I don't pretend to know exactly what the mechanism of what I'm describing is. I'm not sure. But really, really interesting. And the implication is kind of huge, right? The implication of that is potentially there's some objective information. What it is, I'm not sure. I'm not implying that it's something, even like the story I told where the guy was talking about the thing in the room. I'm not sure what those swoops of light are, right? But three of us are seeing the same things at the same time. Trippy, super trippy, just like anything else. We're all seeing the same stuff. Interesting, okay. So I'm kind of like racking up these experiences. Yeah, that is probably suggestibility, potentially, right? Potentially. I'm not ruling that out, actually. That's a good point. I'm totally not ruling that out. Though it does get more interesting based on my own personal experience. I'm kind of building up to it, right? Taking you through the journey that I was on. So next thing. I lost my... Or maybe Bluetooth interference. Potentially, like, what do you mean like Bluetooth, like actual interference from the environment? Or brain to brain, like brain to brain Bluetooth between roommates? I'm looking at the next part. Oh yeah, okay. Now, another thing happened, I'll keep my eye on the comments. So, next experience I want to talk about is at this point I had really learned how to like turn up. People have reported a metaphysical Bluetooth, brain to brain. Yeah, potentially. I think that's what I intuitively understood when I was like, hey, come sit down next to me, right? Now, the question is, was his experience influencing mine? Was my experience influencing his? I would think that one would be the case because I invited him to sit down. Or were we both opening up to some other information and we were both perceiving it at the same time? I don't think there's a way to say definitively yet which one it is, right? I just ponder, I wonder if it was objective. It's fun to think about. And this next experience led me to think that even more. Okay, so flash forward to, when was this one? Maybe 2017, 2018, early 2018 maybe. And I had really learned how to turn up the volume of the visual snow. And at that point, I had started to be able to see different things within it in my environment. Some things seemed objective, right? I'm not sure if it is, but some things seem that way. And I remember sitting in this open space. It's like a prayer chapel, and there's this fountain in the middle. And I'm sitting in this open space, and I'm just watching the visual snow in the room for a while, just like wondering what it is. I don't know. Same thing. I'm just watching it and enjoying it for what it is. The phosphene's going off and stuff. And this young guy comes in and he starts walking around the center fountain. And I'm like, all right, watching him and the visual snow in the environment. Here's where it got really interesting. Around where he's walking, in the actual air, I would see like, it looked like a phosphene, but if you stretched it out like a pillar and kind of widened it, and it would flash and then kind of hang there for a second. Maybe like a second and a half, and I was just watching it physically, going, okay, what am I seeing? This is kind of trippy, right? And as this kid is walking, he would get under that spot where that pillar of light showed up in my vision, and he would respond in some way. He would like laugh or kind of move like this or kind of double over for a second and then stand back up. And first time it happened, I was like, whoa, that was a trip. And then again and again and again and again, it happened. And I was watching as a flash would happen. He'd walk, he'd come back under like this, and he'd respond. And then another one over here, he'd walk, come under, respond. Again and again and again and again and again. Interesting. I'm like watching this in awe, going, what in the world am I seeing? I still don't actually know what I was seeing, right? But to me in that experience, it was clear that potentially, and I still say potentially because we don't have a way to definitively measure this yet, but potentially I'm seeing objective information in the environment that my brain just isn't fully processing correctly, right? Potentially. I'll kind of let that sit for a sec as I review my notes. So, interesting. People have reported a metaphysical Bluetooth. Oh, yeah, I already read that. Okay. So, more objective experience under my belt, right? More like measurable sort of experience under my belt. I'm really wondering at this point, what is this stuff? And what's the extent of which I can see information that maybe isn't fully physical? Whether it's thought, emotional information, I'm not sure what those flashes were for that kid. Flash forward. Not many people here in the comments. Yeah, it's all good. Like I said, I didn't really announce it fully. Oh, we got a few viewers though. 8 viewers. Hey guys, welcome. Feel free to comment. And feel free to share like your experience, if you've had anything like this happen, if you can relate, if you think it's interesting, you think it's cool, if you think it's wild, you think it's kind of, not your thing, feel free, like just comment, I don't mind. It's all good to me. Share with me. This is our time together. Okay, Lurking, what's up? F5 dude. I like that name. Okay, so flash forward. Now this one was very interesting, right? 2018. I know this was 2018 because I was caretaking for my grandparents at the time. He gave you a startle, huh? Came out of the shadows, lurking from the background. So 2018, my grandfather, I was caretaking for my grandfather and my grandmother. My grandfather was in his 90s. And at the time, he was starting to experience some forms of early onset dementia stuff, like pretty wild sleepwalking, like he had sleepwalking. He was starting to hallucinate a little bit. The following year, he went downhill and unfortunately passed away that next year. It was from some head trauma, which I had a dream about before we even learned that he had hit his head. I just didn't take it seriously, unfortunately. The dream, I mean. So I'm caretaking for them, and I was really trying to pay attention to what my grandfather was seeing in the environment. And actually, his doctor encouraged us to be free to talk about it with him. Like, hey, what are you seeing, Pop? You know, we called him Pop. What are you seeing? And describe it. It kind of helps that person get it off their chest so that they don't have to hold it and freak out about whatever they're seeing. But at that point, I had learned how to turn the volume up on the visual snow and these other experiences with the flashes and stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to play around with this and see if anything that my grandfather reports seeing, I can see too in that manner. Most of the stuff, no, nothing happened. He would describe something, I'd look, nothing, I wouldn't see anything there. So we're sitting for dinner. I had just made them dinner. And my grandfather looks under the chair across from us. He's sitting on the couch. I'm sitting to his right. He looks under the chair and across from us, and he starts going boop, 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 like this, like calling an animal. And I'm like, hey, Pop, what are you seeing? And he's like, looks at me and he goes, you don't see the dog under there? There's a little dog right under that chair. And I didn't tell him what I saw next because I didn't want to freak him out, you know. But I'm like, no, I don't see anything. But then I look with my physical eyes. I turn up the volume on the visual snow. Lo and behold, under the chair, I see like a round, sort of concentrated area, almost like a cloud of the visual snow. And within it, a bunch of different sparkles. They look like fireflies going off. Pop, 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 like that. And I'm like, oh, shoot, this is a bit interesting. Still don't know if it's objective or not. All I know is he said he was seeing something under there. I look, most of the time I wasn't seeing anything when he would tell me. This time, there's a cloud and some sparkles in it. And I'm like, okay, what is this? So internally, I move my emotion, my heart, my mind to try to push if there is anything there, whatever energy, whatever it is, I don't know. But if there is anything, push it out, right? Let's just get it out of the environment. I don't need anything hanging around, even if it's a stray cell phone signal or something. Whatever it is, let's get it out of the house. Right when I do that, right when I move my internal world to push the thing out, my grandfather glances over to me and goes, holy moly, you didn't just see it just run up on your lap? I looked at him, I was like, okay. So not only did I see something as well within the visual snow, within the sparkles in that environment, but now there was some objective measure of me trying to engage with whatever energy or whatever something that was, and my grandfather responding to the movement of that, right? And as he said, the little dog like ran up on my lap real quick. Super wild. Super, super, super wild. Come to find out, the way he described it was very much like his dog, the family dog from when my dad was little in that house. It was similar. It wasn't exact, but it was similar to that little dog that they used to have. I forget its name now. So I'm going, okay, this is getting trippy, right? This is getting wild. Not only have I had the experience of potential Bluetooth brains, right? Roommates seeing the same phenomenon in the same space, but now having the experience of my grandfather reporting something right as I engage it, boom, right? Really don't want to do whatever you're talking about. Yeah, that's totally good. I would understand that. I would understand that. If somebody didn't want that sort of thing to happen. And what if it attacks us? Here's the thing. There's a lot of talk, especially within metaphysics, spirituality, practices where, you know, you're becoming more aware of stuff. There's a lot of talk of more things out there that would want to like mess with you versus experiencing actually benevolent or nice stuff, right? I've always been more geared to just internally believing in this sort of like default mode that I'm in, where I'm impervious, like I'll experience stuff, but I'm protected, right? And I'm not even a religious person anymore, right? I grew up in that, not anymore. But I just, for myself, I encourage people to do that too. Take an internal posture that you're okay, right? And that you can turn up volume and you can turn down volume. With prophantasia, it's like, it's interesting because if somebody practices prophantasia, I always warn them beforehand, right? Especially if they have history of schizophrenia or something, that prophantasia on 10 that just is running away with people all the time. If that's the case, it's probably not a wise idea for people to train that, right? If you have family history, if you have personal history with different experiences like that. But I found for most of us that that's not the case for. You have volume. You have a volume dial where you can turn up the volume, you can turn down the volume. And if you practice in that way to turn up and turn down volume, then things don't have to run away with you. You know what I mean? Let's see, Ephi dude. I had a thing happen where I did a visualization exercise with a friend. We would both have eyes closed and tell each other what to see, animals and such. At one point, I saw the same thing my friend told me before he actually told me. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yep, totally. So this sort of thing, what you just described, Ephi, Doot, my friends and I have practiced intentionally, right? Where one of the ways we just recently started practicing was having my friend think of a place, right? Without telling me what it is. And then me, just on my end, trying to tap in to, I don't know, their thought field or something, whatever is going on. Trying to tap in and get information about the place that they're thinking about. A couple times we've been extremely accurate with each other. Pretty wild. So Adi, the problem is now that I'm sensing something too, like a person sitting there right where you are. So what I would encourage you to do if you don't find that sort of experience pleasant is turn it down, turn it off. Even like asking your internal world to get rid of that experience for now can be very helpful. Okay, And then you just ignore. Like you ignore that sensation. Because there really isn't a good measure, especially when we're not practicing with other people, if we're just making up the experience in our mind, or if there is objective information. What I'm really interested in is the objective information part. I don't want to just like go around and, fantasize all the time and make up my own reality. That's not my desire. But I do want to know if there's layers of reality that most of us don't perceive, or we do perceive, we just don't know it, or something like that. I do want to know that. I desperately want to know that. And I want to try to have science and physics dissect that and understand that. Because why wouldn't we want to do that, right? Hey, Kat, how's it going? In the past, you were put on meds that gave you, ADHD meds that gave you strong visual snow that looked like webs. Whoa. Your cousin could see you draw lines with our eyes closed. In the snow? See, this kind of thing, like what you just described, Kat, is very similar to how I've experienced these things too. Objective information passed between two people. And what it is, I'm not sure. Is it actually in the environment? Is it like the Bluetooth connection that Adi mentioned earlier? I don't know. I'm not sure. But I think it merits conversation, and it merits documentation, and it merits research, right? Just like it's so crazy to me that, there's a very common human experience where you might think of a friend before they text or call, and then pick up your phone and go, oh, wow, there they are. That's funny. I just thought of them. It's super, super common. You might have 1 out of 2 people. If you had a room of 200 people, you might have like 40 to 50% raise their hand that they've had that happen, maybe even more. Right? From my standpoint, I'm like, I've never approached these topics as a materialist, just because I was always interested more in the mystical side of things before, but I always thought like an engineer, wanting to understand how those mystical things like happen. And then when I started really getting into my own research, digging into research, formal research, I'm like, yeah, let's put data to those sorts of experiences, right? Let's put data to these things. Let's find out what the mechanism is. You don't have, people like academia doesn't have to call it psychic or psionic or whatever they're uncomfortable with. I like calling it anomalous cognition. We don't understand it. Let's understand it. Let's figure out what is happening and explore it fully and get some data behind it. Come to find out, as I got into that field more, there's decades of data. There's decades of data. It's just our materialist worldview, especially in the Western world, has stopped us from looking into that stuff fully, or from even entertaining the thought of it, which I don't think is right, If there's a part of reality that we don't fully understand yet, I, from a scientific perspective, want to understand it. You know what I'm saying? Ephi, dude, the thing is, I think I might have seen the animal before he even thought of it. That's what it felt like, because I saw the impression a few seconds before he suggested it. Yeah. Yep, straight up. So I've done a measure of this with my friends too. I will sit and try to perceive something before they think of it. And sometimes I've been accurate with that as well. That, in the scientific term, at least in what we have so far, they would call precognition, right? Being able to know something before you actually have a data point, or before something actually took place. Actually, you realize it's just me, like your own body? Yeah. See, so that's good. So you, Adi, just demonstrated a really important skill. Like, okay, you're perceiving something. Our knee-jerk reaction as humans, and this is a biological trait, which it does serve us, but is to have fear around something that we don't understand, or that is new or something novel, right? Because it's unknown. And it serves you really well, quite honestly. Like if you're going around in the woods and you come across a cave that's dark, you might feel a measure of fear before going in there, at least I hope you do, for a good reason. There might be a bear in there hibernating or something, right? So you don't just want to go wandering into a dark cave willy-nilly. You should know what you're doing, have proper equipment, things like that. The issue is when there's no inherent danger but we still feel the fear, the biological fear, just because it's an unknown, right? Just because it's like, that is new, that is like from the outside right now, it looks like a dark cave and I'm scared, right? That I've always been, that sort of response in me, I've always recognized as almost like a challenge. I'm like, oh man, there's something there. There's some interesting thing or some interesting like knowledge or experience. Like I'm doing this right now in the physical, right? I moved abroad. I've never moved abroad, especially to a country that I don't speak the language. Big unknown. I was a little nervous. And actually when I got out here, I'm still a little nervous. I'm learning the language, stuff like that, but big dark cave, you know, but I'm like, ooh, challenge. What am I going to find in there? Right? And that's how I've always treated the what some people would call metaphysical or mystical experience too. Is I'm like, I want to know. I want to know what's in there. I want to do so measured. I don't want to lose myself. Obviously, I don't think that's preferable ever. But I want to know. I'm too curious. And over the years, I just naturally drew some of these potential parallels between different phenomena that I'm like, I want to dissect that. Here's the thing, man. Like some of what that could potentially imply, and like what Kat brought up, like being able to draw lines within the snow and other people being able to see this stuff is okay. There might be something more to the visual snow than we currently realize, right? There might be something more. I say might. I'm not saying 100%. I want more research on it. I want more investigation and exploration in there, right? Because if there is something there, wouldn't we want to know that as people? Wouldn't we want humanity to understand what they're experiencing and then how to use that potentially to our advantage or for some utility? You know? Like a new piece of technology. Yeah, it's like a new piece of technology. It's like when the iPhone first came out. You heard, even myself at the time, I was like, dude, who needs their MP3 player on their phone? Like, that's silly. That's why we have iPods. I don't need an iPhone. I don't need a phone with my MP3 player. I didn't have the foresight at that time to go, ooh, okay, something's here, something's new, and I'm uncomfortable with it, but it's going to be big, right? I'd hope that certain members of society would be able to do that with other things too, not just technology. But this sort of thing it's kind of similar. It's like this thing that maybe we haven't talked about or maybe haven't explored yet or thought about within the topic of visual snow, prophantasia, all that stuff. And what are the implications of that? And what does that mean for our perception of reality as humanity? That's what I'm really into. And that's why I joined my brands together, because it's like these two main passions, science, imagination, aphantasia, all of that. But then also the implications of, for lack of a better term, metaphysics, right? But I don't even see it as metaphysics. It's like if you're experiencing something in the physical world, there has to be some physics explanation to it. We just don't maybe have the physics for it yet, in my opinion. I've seen other stuff like weird little moments in the visual snow. Like I remember, I haven't reproduced this very many times, maybe twice, but there was a cell phone on a table and I saw a flash like in the snow stuff. As I was watching TV, I saw a flash over here, like a lightning bolt, and then the phone went off, right? It started ringing. It's funny because I know that that's not even how cell phones receive a signal. It's a wave that it receives from a satellite or local cell towers and stuff. It would be more of a wave spreading out, but for whatever reason, it seemed like my brain potentially, of course, could be coincidence. I'm not ruling that out, but potentially was seeing a visual representation of the signal going like that the phone was about to receive or whatever. Interesting to think about, right? Ever since you got off the meds, your visual snow has never been as vivid, but if you meditate and focus enough, you can get close to seeing and making those webs for a moment. Interesting. Kat, that's super, super interesting. Thank you for sharing. I find like even still for me now, my visual snow experience is the thickest when I first wake up. So when I first wake up, I'm still kind of groggy. I just open my eyes on especially like a cream colored wall. it's like real thick. It's just so thick in there. I just kind of watch it for a little bit, and I try to like make it last, because theorizing how I'm theorizing, I want to keep playing with it. I want to keep seeing what potentially is objective within that information. But I'm not there yet. Like right now, it's pretty bright outside still, and I don't really see it. Maybe if I look toward a dim wall. Yeah, if I look toward a dim wall over here, I do see it. Okay. Let me get through some comments. I want to loop back around to, of course, how I started this whole channel with visualization training, prophantasia, aphantasia. Well, I'll get through some of the comments here. Now that you mentioned curiosity, it's probably a good thing that you stopped the cat thing with the channel. Yeah, for sure. I didn't want to lock myself into one topic, if that makes sense. Oh, curiosity and cats. Oh, you're making a silly. You're making it funny. Curiosity killed the cat. Hey, I'm still kicking though. I'm still kicking. But yeah, I mean, I didn't want to just lock the conversation that I could explore through my main channel into only one topic, or this topic or that topic. Like, you know, only aphantasia or only mind's eye or whatever. And really, I want to help add what I can to the conversation of bridging what has always been termed metaphysics to scientific exploration, which I think it merits, especially if enough people report the same phenomenon, which on this call already, we have 1, 2, 3 who have mentioned something along the similar lines like I've been talking about. Some objective experience between people. What that is a Bluetooth connection. What is it? We don't know. But let's explore it. Let's be curious about it. Scaring people is not my intention. My intention is just to describe my own personal experience and what I've explored for myself. Whether somebody wants to explore those, that's totally up to them. Totally up to them. People don't have to do that. Right. And cat. Sit in a dark room sometimes, get a little visual snow swimming around by myself. Yep. One fun thing I've tried with doing that, just sitting and watching it, is like waving my hand through it and just seeing how it can affect it, right? And then playing around with other people in the room and seeing if they can see it too. Which, like, sometimes the visual snow will get stronger between two focal points, like something like this. And people will start to physically see like a condensed little area of snow there. What is that? I don't know. Let's figure it out. Let's get some data. Let's get some common language. Doesn't have to be scary. New territory, sure. Doesn't have to be scary. Although new territory oftentimes is inherently scary, like I talked about. Let me see what else I want to cover here. I'm going to consult my notes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I was going to loop back around to prophantasia, right? Because prophantasia is our term for like visual imagination being projected. In other words, it wouldn't be accurate if some of those flashes, experiences, and things like that are seeing, let's just say theoretically, you are seeing objective information sometimes in all of that you can verify with other people, and hopefully at some point with actual measurement technology instruments. If, let's say, it is objective, prophantasia would describe not the objective part. Prophantasia would describe you just want to project the shape of something into your environment and physically see it, right? But not necessarily for other people to see it, or that it is actual physical information or occupying physical space or something. It's not objective. It's just I want a triangle to appear, I produce and project the triangle. That's prophantasia, right? So prophantasia is not even a very good term for describing the implications of what I've been discussing today. Right. But the visual snow, and way early on when I first started teaching all this stuff and exploring all this with actual one-on-one sessions, visual snow was a huge part of experiencing prophantasia, like just producing outlines of things, because that's how I taught myself. I had already started to see the visual snow way back, right? 2011. That by the time I started to produce those outlines, actually I started prophantasic outlines before that, now that I think about it. Because I first started doing prophantasic outlines on the blackness of my eyelids back in 2011. Back in 2010. The visual snow experience came like a year and a half later in 2011. But I did experience practicing visual snow. I noticed that the outlines tend to have that same texture. They tend to be grainy and stuff. And what I realized is I could close my eyes or wear a blindfold or something, get the visual snow to appear with my eyes closed. It's harder with your eyes closed, by the way. For some reason, I'm not sure. But get the visual snow to appear, and then when I would project a triangle or project a shape or whatever, the triangle would form almost like within the snow, like the visual snow was clumping together and more concentrated in there. Almost like you have an outline of it, and then the visual snow is denser, but also you turn up the opacity of it, so it's like more defined. So ever since realizing that years and years ago, that's how I teach prophantasia, right? You get the visual snow to occur first, learn how to turn it up, learn how to turn it down, because you don't want it up all the time. And then you start projecting subtle shapes into it and just observe what the visual snow does. It can help enhance the experience of prophantasia. We talked about phosphene waves last time a little bit. I got a theory that your brain is constantly using phosphenes, actually. It's a working theory on how vision potentially works, and actually part of it came about from what a retinal implant doctor had said to me. So phosphene waves are like colors that swirl around like that, right? There's no official name for them. They're lumped in with phosphenes. I wish it had an official name. I just call it phosphene waves because it's typically the same experience for people. And visual snow, projected imagery, and phosphene waves can all like interplay with each other. Let's see. Can you see the aura around people like fortune? For example, if you see certain person more, bad things will happen. I'm not sure what you're asking. If you see a certain person more, bad things will happen. I'm not sure. I have experienced being able to tell information about somebody without any prior information being told to me. And I've done that even with just being told a name. So, we can practice that sometime as a group too. For people that want to get into that sort of thing. Not everybody does. You had that once, actually, like that person. Turns out I actually liked that person and nothing bad happened. Oh, so it was like a construct in your mind. You were thinking that something might happen, but nothing ended up occurring, right? Yeah. What you mentioned with interacting with it with the hands, when I tried it, I got a bit of something that reminded me of the concept I've heard before called auras around people's bodies. Yep. Yeah, so that's another theory that I've had and I've played around with, is the concept of an aura or an energy field, either around people or around objects, seeing it via the visual snow. I've had some success with that. Some stuff seems to reside in the visual snow. It's always more condensed around mountaintops for some reason, especially if it's like a clear day, like a blue sky, or even a cloudy gray kind of just hazy day. You look at a mountain and then turn on the visual snow, like turn up the volume. It always seems to be condensed. Though, now that I've said that, who knows, am I just suggesting it and that's what you see? I've only had one time where I was like, hey, do this, look above people's heads and check out the visual snow, and they described exactly how I see it too. Yeah. Could visual snow in some sense be similar to tinnitus? So the extreme version of visual snow, I think potentially, yeah. I think it could be an overactivity of what we're talking about, right? And I haven't totally written off yet because I think we need more data and not just my own and my limited anecdotal experience with other people. I haven't totally written off that it's not an ocular nerve noise issue or brain thing, right? But let's say both are true. Let's say the brain is for some reason wired to perceive visual snow louder than other people. Could that be used then to see objective information in the visual snow stuff, right? I'm not sure, and I'm really curious about it. But I think it's a tricky thing because it's like, if it's distressing, that's the word I was looking for earlier. If it's distressing for the person experiencing the visual snow, then I wouldn't necessarily want them to play with that, because it's distressing for them. They should be more, or they'd likely want to be more on the side of let's learn how to turn it down, which I'd be totally for, right? Rather, could you do prophantasia in terms of noises and audio? What do you mean? Like, so noises or audio in your environment showing up as prophantasic projections? Is that what you're pondering about? I like that thought. I like that. See, exploring. Explore. Wonder, be curious. That's how I've always done it. I can't help it. It's in me to do. Even in terms of touch, like I can feel noise all over my skin if I focus on it. Tactile buzzing, kind of, right? Feel the skin even though nothing touches it, sure. So could you even do a prophantasic touch? Oh, prophantasic touch, where you project the sense of touch into your physical experience. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. 100%. So here's a story around that. This was back before I really started laying in and practicing any of the stuff we're talking about. When was this? 2005. I was working at Disneyland at the time in Southern California, and there was this guest who used to come in all the time. He'd just talk with us in our building, who was like a very experienced hypnotist, showy hypnotist, right? And so he's like, hey, you guys want to come over for a hypnotism party? I'll hypnotize you. We'll have some fun. I'll give you like a mini show. And 5 of us are like, heck yeah. So a bunch of us went over there. One of the hypnosis things that he presented to us was, when I say the word secret, you'll hear a ring in your shoe and you'll pick up your shoe and answer it, like, because you're a secret agent, right? And hypnotism all comes down to suggestibility. At least that's how we understand it now. And I remember him saying secret. I didn't hear any ringing, but I picked up my shoe because I was in a relaxed, suggestible state. And I remember thinking, this is silly. I'm just going to go along with it, right? I don't think I was fully hypnotized. What was trippy about it, though, a few minutes later, he was talking with my friend, hypnotizing my friend, and doing the same experience, doing the same hypnosis with the word secret. And he said, when I say the word secret, and right when he said it, prophantasically, hearing-wise, I physically heard, like prophantasic, physical, right? I physically heard a ringing in the house, like an old dial, rotary dial phone ring. Just for like a second. And I went, oh my gosh, I wasn't even feeling relaxed. I was already post-hypnosis, but when he said that, I heard it prophantasically. So yes, it totally is possible. I've played around with those kind of concepts. I'm unsure how to increase and decrease visual snow. Do you have any resources or advice on that? My biggest advice on that is a concept called, that I created called mental switches. So like learning how to turn on and turn off mental sensations or perceptions. I don't remember if that's in my mega guide yet. There's a lot more open source resource stuff that I want to write about. I've been focusing on other stuff. But yeah, mental switches. We'll necessarily have to talk about that in the challenge for next week. You can have imposition of all senses or almost all senses. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Doing prophantasia instead of just visual, doing it in terms of audio. Yep, that's that story, right? Yeah, and for instance, like, I can still do this to an extent. So if I hear, let's say, a car alarm, a droning noise outside, especially if I have another source of white noise turned on like a fan, and I can just kind of barely hear the car alarm, once the car alarm stops, I can kind of force that sound to continue. So I hear the white noise from the fan. The car alarm has physically stopped now, but I can force my brain to perceive the car alarm sound in the white noise of the fan. It's really interesting. It's essentially like what you're asking about. Prophantasic version of audio phenomena or audio sense. Yeah. And Kat, yeah, saying that you have your experience of when you touch something, you get some audio in your mind. Oh, yeah. I think that's, what is that? Synesthesia, maybe ideesthesia. There's those two that I am aware of. Tactile imposition, yeah. And that's the thing. Like Adi is saying, there is some inherent risk to practicing prophantasia in any degree or with any of the senses, right? Because ideally, we wouldn't want prophantasia to run away with you, to get out of hand, out of control. And that's why the idea of volume dials are so freaking important to me, right? Hyperphantasia too, like mind's eye stuff, just internal mental sensing, is way more practical than prophantasia in my mind. You can use it for memory, you can use it for framing ideas, you can use it for planning songs, planning art pieces, right? You can kind of think of the image before you actually paint something, that kind of thing. I find it much more practical than prophantasia, but prophantasia is interesting and fun. And if I'm right, if I end up being right with some of my theories, then that version of not necessarily us producing the image, but seeing objective information in Visual Snow would be very useful too at some point, right? Okay. Let me see if there's anything else I want to talk about. So yeah, just the question, what if snow isn't only a defect? What if like the extreme version of it, we could consider it that? But what if it's not only a defect? What if our brains are trying to process information that we don't fully understand? Right? It's just a what if. Explore it or not, you don't have to. Let me make that clear. You don't have to. Right? But I am very curious about it. And if you have had the experience or similar experiences to what I've described, please talk to me. Please let me know. The sooner I can get data around that stuff, the better, in my opinion. Even if it's just anecdotal at first. Right? Let me see. I'm just reading my notes here. That's about it. That's my main topic of today I wanted to cover. Visual snow, the reasons why you might want to explore playing around with it, especially if prophantasia is a goal of yours. Doing it safely, of course, with all due caution. But why visual snow can play into prophantasia, why visual snow might even play into some other practices, especially to do with consciousness or anomalous cognition. Really interesting to think about, right? Yeah, can I demonstrate a mental switch right now? I can't, like, you wouldn't be able to see it, of course, but there's been, like, I can describe one, and I can do it, but you're just going to see me kind of get relaxed. But there was a mental switch that I figured out way back when I was a teenager. I must have been like, I don't know, 15 or 14 or something. And I'd be frustrated. Sometimes I just couldn't fall asleep if I was trying to do a nap. Oh, you're saying exactly what I was. Oh, no. You said that earlier. So I figured out this mental switch where I would cause a sensation almost like a book pressing down on the top of my head. And it's a physical sensation. It's quite physical for me. And I'd flip it on. I'd do this mental action, right? Mental switch. And I'd feel this kind of pressure coming down like this through my head. And I'd feel it press down on the back of my eyes. And once it got to about here, I'd fall asleep pretty dang fast. Pretty dang fast. I still do that. Like if I have a night where I can't fall asleep, I'll do that. And if it doesn't work, I'll still get up and like read. And then I do that and I can fall asleep right away. So falling asleep's never been an issue for me on the regular because I figured out this mental switch to make that happen, right? Waking up in the middle of the night, absolutely, it gets interesting then. So what's the special announcement? Yeah, let's get back to that. I'll just pull up the Word document that I had ChatGPT write up for me because I started prepping for this call way later than I intended. Busy day. Okay, what am I doing? Okay. So, 7-day PROPHANTASIA challenge. This is my loose outline for how it's going to go. I say loose because it might change before we start on Monday. But what we're going to do, the 14th through the 20th, we're going to be practicing about 30 to 40 minutes a day, I'm assuming. As a group, however big or small group we want to do is great. We could have 5 people, 3 people, we could have 10, whatever. It's going to be totally free. It's just a community event. Phase 1, I think like first couple days, probably 1, 2, 3 days, we'll be training to see the snow. Turning it up, turning it down, messing with the mental switch of getting the snow to appear, right? Want to turn it up, you want to turn it down. You don't want it on all the time. That's too much. Phase 2, like about days 3 through 5, right? Projecting simple shapes into the snow, right? So using the visual snow as a canvas to project the shapes into, right? Phase 3, the last couple days, we'll be projecting those shapes and playing around with projecting while very relaxed. Because I find that that's where PROPHANTASIA can really kind of take off, and all of a sudden you'll be in, like, feeling like a VR headset's right in front of you. It can be pretty trippy. Seeing your room with your eyes closed, or, you know, seeing an environment, a coffee shop you like, or something like that, or whatever you're trying to visualize. At this point, too, like somewhere in between phase 2 and 3, we'll introduce some more Kasina style meditation technique, but not going too deep into that. I don't even know a whole lot about Kasina. It's just they mess around a lot with after imaging, and that can help. That can help like increase your experience with PROPHANTASIA. So yeah. Focus of the challenge, super playful, super exploratory, not expecting too much. It's just for fun, right? Curiosity, relaxed feel of it. And then small and patient steps as we move through, trying to get some projected imagery going. Okay? So that's going to be next week. Totally free event. It's going to be led in the Discord channel. If you're not in there yet, make sure you jump in. Next week, Monday through Sunday. Monday will be our kickoff day, and then Sunday will be kind of like our wrap-up day, and we'll fit in the concepts that I just went over in between all that. And yeah, like if you're interested in this stuff, you're welcome to join. I would caution, of course, and I'll say this when I announce the event in the Discord server too, I would highly caution against exploring that stuff if you have a history of any sort of mental illness in your life or your family's genealogy, just as a warning. Disclaimer, mega disclaimer, because the last thing you'd want is for PROPHANTASIA in any kind of sense, visual or non-visual, visual, tactile, whatever, to run away with you. That's not the objective, right? We want things to be measured. We want things to be controllable. Turn it up, turn it down, turn it on, turn it off, so that it doesn't have to be an overwhelming experience. Is this a thing on your own or live stream or in voice chat? We'll probably have a mix of all of that. So mostly it's going to be the information coming out and then us bouncing back and forth in the Discord server through chat. Okay, but I haven't formalized yet the schedule, so there might be sprinkled in some live streams, some voice chats, whatever, right? There will be a new section in the Discord channel called challenges. So it'll be like the challenge area of the Discord channel, and you'll be able to hop in there. And the things that we do in there will be, you'll have special channels for each of what you just mentioned, like whether it's voice chat or a text conversation, right? I could even do like a stage in there, like a live stage where I could hop in and do Q&A or something. That would be cool. And maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the challenge. Yeah, and if you guys have ideas too about what you would want to talk about or questions or something, pop into the Discord server because I'm forming it right now. It'll be formalized, like formatted completely by about Saturday, maybe Sunday afternoon, and then we'll launch right into it Monday morning. All right. So keep in mind, I already mentioned everything. It's explore at your own pace. That's what I'll say to kind of leave us off. Some of what I talked about is wild. I recognize it is not the normal conversation, but that's what I've always been about. And that's what I've always been the most into. Plowing new ground, not rehashing what we already know. And so let's just ponder, let's have conversations. Let's talk about joint experiences. Let's talk about common experiences from things that happen. I love when you guys commented about experiences that you had with friends or something like that. Especially because those things are more anecdotal evidence for what we're even discussing, right? So pop in the Discord server. Let's talk about it. Let's open that dialogue. If there is another aspect of human cognition and consciousness, like we'd be kidding ourselves if we thought that we experience the full spectrum of reality. We only see a sliver of the visual light spectrum. Butterflies see so many more colors than us, experience so much different things visually than us. We don't have a reference point for what that's like. But what if visual snow is a product of some type of perception that we don't fully understand? That's my big question here. That's what I'm proposing, right? So let's chat about it. Let's ponder. Let's discuss. And I'm going to call it a day. We're almost at an hour and a half. Give my voice a rest. You guys are awesome. That was a big journey, especially for people that are coming at this conversation not really thinking about any of this before. Cause some people to go, I'm probably not going to listen to Alec anymore. It's okay. I just got to be me. We just got to do what we got to do. Got to do what we going to do, you know what I'm saying? And what I really hope for in the next 10, 20 years is to see that sort of thing come into scientific understanding. Ideally, measurable, not just with another person, because that could still be subjective, or like the Bluetooth effect that Adi said earlier, but through technology. That would be ideal. Then, man, if I had a device, when my grandfather described that dog underneath the chair and I saw the cloud of sparkly fireflies in it, if I had a device that could measure whatever that is and objectively tell us, yes, there's this sort of thing or energy there, oh my God, wouldn't that be incredibly valuable? A whole new area of exploration, technology, physics, understanding of reality would completely blow wide open in an objective, measurable way. And that's what I'm hoping for during my lifetime. I don't know how to get there yet, but I want to do my part in seeing that come to play. Where is the projection today? I'm not sure what you're asking there. The collective projection. I'm not sure what you're asking there, Adi. Feel free to hop in the Discord though and ask. We can have that conversation. I'm down. Because I think you're asking about, like, I don't know, collective understanding of reality or something. But all right, guys. Well, that was fun. Thanks for entertaining my wild ideas and having a conversation around it. Pop in the Discord. Let's chat. Let's discuss. Bring up whatever else you feel like talking about. All right? All right. Much love. Be safe out there. Take care. Bye-bye. I did this last time. I don't know how to end my stream yet. Got to get into the flow of this. All right. See you guys.